In an unprecedented decision, an Alabama Supreme Court ruling has ruled that frozen embryos are children and entitled to all legal protections, just as a fetus in the womb is in that state. The opinion comes after a 2022 lawsuit filed by three couples who claim a patient at an Alabama fertility clinic destroyed their frozen embryos. We're joined now live by assisted reproductive technology attorney Corlandos. He is licensed in both California and Alabama. You've been busy. Welcome to the show. So, frozen embryos were previously considered property. Now they're considered human beings. This precedent is already being used in a Florida case. Put this ruling in context for us and what it means for everyone who has frozen embryos, frozen eggs, frozen sperm, any other genetic material. Can you hear us?
Sure, absolutely, I can.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
All right,
Go
wonderful.
ahead, if you don't mind repeating from the beginning.
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe that what we have here at the heart of the matter lies the court's effort to protect the sanctity of life at all stages and at all levels, but also we're worried about advancing medical technology to people who are trying to grow their family. So when you ask, what does this mean for people trying to grow their family? It's monumental, because we have a situation here where the legal landscape is very unclear after this ruling. Also, the costs of these technologies and these options for growing or hopefully growing families may skyrocket.
Right. Talk a little bit about the cost, because obviously the liability has skyrocketed for providers, healthcare providers. And does this mean that couples who have frozen embryos will be forced to either store them forever, give them to someone else, or actually give birth to them?
Well, you raised a couple of very important points. First of all, imagine this. Imagine you're the night janitor at a fertility clinic, and I'll make a caricature of this, but you'll get my point. And you are sweeping, doing your rounds, and you accidentally unplug a cryo tank. Well, what does that mean for that clinic? As the janitor, are you liable? Is the CEO of the fertility clinic liable? Is the board of trustees liable for manslaughter or murder? So how does that work out? And so with that thought process, clinics are going to have to up their legal processes. They're going to have to be prepared on the insurance front to be covered for more damages. And really, when you say who's going to be the parent, that's the most interesting part of all for me, because the interesting thing about assisted reproduction is when a donor donates their gametes, their eggs or their sperm, they are protected by Alabama law. They are not considered the parents. However, until the hopeful parents, the intended parents, take that sperm and egg, create an embryo, and get to about the first or second trimester of a pregnancy, they're also not declared the parents. So you have these new embryos that are declared children who have legal rights, but there's no one there to exercise them because there is no parent for this embryo. We really are going to have to dig into this legal landscape to figure out, what does this mean?
And what does it mean for the provider? Obviously, there are questions about this still, but what does this mean in terms of criminal liability for healthcare providers, the doctors, the nurses who are assisting in this process?
That's the thing that I think is going to scare a lot of IVF clinics away from even engaging in these procedures, and maybe even shut down the entire industry in the state of Alabama, because no one knows. Is the lab technician responsible? Is the reproductive endocrinologist that performed the embryo transfer or the IVF procedure responsible? Again, what about the board of trustees or the CEO of the fertility clinic? There just is no clarity there. And so what this creates is a vacuum of law and a wild, wild west as it concerns IVF in the state of Alabama, unfortunately.
And quickly, before we let you go, where do you see this case going, especially given the makeup of the Supreme Court?
Well, if it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, there may actually be support for it based on decisions that we've seen in the past, like Roe v. Wade being overturned. I can also see other states adopting similar legislation or having similar rulings that could lead to similar legislation. And what would be most interesting for me is to see how the Alabama legislature responds to this. If they go back and clarify this ruling that was based on a law from the 1800s, or if they leave it as is.
All right, Corlandos, glad we got you back. Thank you so much for being with us and giving us a little bit more clarity on this.